What's up, everybody? Back at it with another episode of the Wine and Gist with Monomoxie podcast. My name is Monomoxie, your hostess with the mostest, and I am so glad that you're here. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it. If you're a new listener, welcome to our safe space for raw, deep, and unfiltered discussions about lifestyle, dating, and relationships today. Let's hop into it with this week's topics, shall we? We've got some juicy details to discuss as promised. Take a seat, grab a glass, and let's gist. Okay, so before we get started, I want to lay down a real quick disclaimer. When I say man and woman as I discuss these topics, it's not to be exclusive of those who do not identify as either man or woman. I talk about these things from my point of view, and I identify as a woman and have only ever been in heterosexual relationships with people who identify as men. So a lot of my examples are man, woman, but that's not to be exclusive because, everybody dates and most people fall in love. So regardless of who you identify or how you identify, these topics definitely still apply to you and your situation. Moving forward, the topic for this week is setting the right standard of treatment from the get-go. For example, if you are someone who requires to be courted properly, you lay it down up front and accept nothing less. Or maybe if you're somebody who believes in the 50-50 arrangement, you lay it down up front and argue with no one about it. Or maybe if you're somebody who believes that, when you start having a family, one parent should stay home and take on the homemaking responsibilities while the other should work. Hey, lay that down and that's who you are. Set the right standard from the get-go. A few years back, I was talking to a friend of mine and I asked her about the guy she had recently been talking to and she spoke really highly of. And as soon as I asked her, it's like, hey, what about that guy? Whatever happened to him? How far did that go? She immediately rolled her eyes and went, ugh, that one. So I'm like, what, girl? Give me the deets. What happened? You were like really into him. So a little background, they met online and were talking for about, 4 days over text message. And apparently one short phone call on the first day that they started talking. So they finally decided to meet up for their first date and, first physical meetup. And they were going to do that the following Saturday from when they started talking. And she was really looking forward to it. And that's why she got really excited and told me about him. And she was really looking forward to meeting this guy. But that same night, like the night that they made these plans, she received an unsolicited dick pic from him. And long story short, she canceled the date and she never got to meet him. And now he's that guy's story. Okay, so after I finished laughing, because, my first thought was like, good Lord, how ugly was his dick that she had to cancel the date. How ugly was this guy's dick? That was my first thought. So, I decided to dig a little deeper and ask her exactly, what exactly put her off about that whole situation. Was it the actual dick or was it just the idea of dick pics? What exactly was it? So she explained to me that it was the fact that he hadn't really established some sort of rapport with her in that sense. So it felt more invasive than flattering, which, I totally get it. You know what I'm saying? You're excited to meet someone on a strictly you're a romantic level. And even though, sexual nature is natural when you're being romantic with somebody, but you haven't really established that yet with them. And then just bam, a whole dick in your face. So it's definitely more invasive. And I totally get it, sis. I totally get it. And the thing to me is guys who send unsolicited dick pics have all the fucking audacity in the world. They really must think that their dick is the Hercules of dicks. What in the world? Do you understand how much nerve you have to send somebody an unsolicited picture of your dick and fully hoping to accomplish something from it? That takes a lot of audacity in the completely wrong way. I mean, gentlemen, just picture this for a second. Just go ahead and humor me and picture this, right? You meet a lovely lady and you're vibing on a getting to know each other basis, right? And you ask her out on a date and you guys are all set to go. The day's coming ahead, maybe in the following week. And then you're driving around about your usual day, going about your normal day like you always do, and you receive this picture from her. You're like, "Aw, I bet it's her beautiful smile." But nope, no. It's straight up beefcake. Just bam, right in your face. Like a close up shot of her vagina. Okay, like labia just freaking hanging there and all. Like just straight up, no filter, just bam. Just pure vagina, pure waffle. Camera lens cut it all up in there, straight up in your face. I don't care how much you claim to love vagina. That shit is invasive. That's like, what the fuck? Completely unexpected and just straight up invasive. That's what we see when y'all send close-up shots of your dicks and seriously think that it's supposed to arouse a grown woman. Like, it's a grown woman. You think she hasn't seen a penis before? Like, there's nothing arousing about just your dick. Okay? Like, I mean, seriously. See, when women take nudes, we make it hot, right? We make it sexy. We make it arousing. We take certain angles, arch in certain ways. It is sexually pleasing and arousing. But when men go to take nudes, it's always just like straight up dick shot. And it's like, oh my God, can you get more creative than like, the way I mean, some of them, choke the chicken and then just do like a close up. And then the others like have like the bird's eye view where they take it from like the top. And then others just have like, the thing just flapped over in their lap and just laying there. It's like, whatever creative ways you guys are coming up with, all you're doing is taking a close-up shot of a dick. And seriously, like, you got to get more creative than that. Like, you have to make it hot. If not, it really is just straight up just ugh. So in the case of my friend, I legitimately think it would have gone completely different if he sent a flattering, like, full body shot instead. I mean, he'd established some sort of like conversation with her, right? She was kind of into him based on how they were vibing conversationally. So I think he kind of had a shot if he didn't just go straight full dick. Basically, what I'm saying, gentlemen, is that there is a proper way to send a dick pic that makes it acceptable and even, not invasive and fucking weird, right? I mean, first of all, you definitely need to establish some sort of chemistry or rapport with that person, even if it's like a sexual flirt, but you get confirmation from that person that they are also interested in you in a romantic or sexual nature. That's the first and foremost thing. Secondly, for the love of God, make it sexy and make it hot. Go full frontal. Seriously, strike a pose, make a funny but cute face. Make it fun. Have fun with it. That's how you send nudes to a woman. We're tired of seeing just dick. I mean, I'm a married woman now, so I definitely most certainly do not entertain any of that. But when I was in my single and dating days, trust me, I got enough unsolicited dick pics to swear off dicks for life. Okay, so I know that I'm coming from a place of every other woman who is fucking tired of it. Stop with the unsolicited close-up shots of your penis. Thank you. But funny enough, I've actually had this same conversation in a group setting. And a lot of men actually said they've had no issues pulling a woman with their unsolicited dick pics. And that's kind of what draws me to the standards thing, setting the right standards from the get-go. Now, I ain't no prude, I'm not no waiting 90 days before sex type of woman. But in my single days, I believed that part of me was reserved strictly for men who met my standards. Like, I'm not going to show or give these parts of me to just anybody, right? And it's not necessarily saying that this person had to be my boyfriend or be committed to me. It was just someone that I know met my standards to begin with, someone that was a legitimate potential for me to go after as a partner for life. And as a twice married woman, okay, don't judge, all right? I'm a millennial and we're allowed at least 5 of these. But as a twice married woman, my standards never failed me, all right? My standards actually took me to an altar twice, okay? So, baby, my standards are pretty high, I'd say. So I think that sticking to your standards is not something that's going to fail you. And I'm speaking from experience. Now, while I believe that everyone should wear their standards proud, I also believe that everyone should be realistic about those standards, right? Like, are your standards realistic to what you have to offer? I know that sounds like really horrible because I genuinely believe that everyone has something to offer, but can your standards, cash the checks that they're writing? You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. I always say that in order to have your ideal person, the person that you want, you yourself have to be the person that that person wants. If not, it just cannot work, right? Because they have their standards and you have your standards, and you each have to be each other's standards to a certain extent for things to work. So it's important to reflect on yourself and think, well, these are my standards. Do I meet the standards of my standards? So, on to setting standards from the get go. Back in my single days, single and on the prowl days, I too had one of them Tinder things. Yeah, them Tinder things. So I met a guy on there and we exchanged numbers, and we seemed to hit it off at first. So, everything was good. Well, that same night, like the same night we exchanged numbers, around like 10 p.m. ish at night, he sent me a text and he's like, "Want to come chill?" And I immediately rolled my eyes like, ugh, another one bites the dust, because that's just not me. I could have just blocked him and moved on, but because of who I am as a person, I had to, school him a little bit. So I said, no, sir. I don't come chill with people that, I haven't even met in person before. I desire to be courted properly. You have to ask me out on a proper date where we meet and do an activity and have a good time with each other before we get to a come chill level. He then went on about how he doesn't like to spend money on women who aren't his girlfriend because women have a tendency to go on dates just to be dined out, and he's not going to spend money on something that isn't guaranteed to go anywhere. It was really such a turnoff. I'm honestly not going to sit here and argue with this person about how to court a woman. He has his standards, I have mine. So I told him, you know what? We got nowhere to go from here. None. So let's just call it a day. We may have matched, but we're definitely not compatible. We do not carry the same mindsets on this. So let's just chuck deuces and move on. I most definitely do not like his mindset. Someone who has a preset idea of women is going to project that on every woman they come across. And I'm just not dealing with that. I'm not going to spend my time in a relationship consistently proving to somebody that I'm not the type of woman he thinks women are. There's just huge red flag off the get-go, and I was like, nope, you can have yourself. I'm going to go ahead and move on. I mean, there are probably a lot of people who will argue that his request was a fair one, and many women would even go and meet up with him in hopes that, it blossoms into something more and he becomes, something more, right? But that just wasn't me. The standard you set from the get-go follows you throughout that relationship. When you show up to come chill request at 10 p.m. for the first time you're meeting someone, you're setting a standard of 10 p.m. come chill requests down the line. And like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing when you've established that sort of rapport with someone. But when you haven't, that just kind of create what I call the roach effect, because how roaches are nocturnal and they only come out in the dark. Just like you, when your dates always start at 10 p.m. and only ever happen at, their place or yours, you're essentially in the roach effect. I really do believe that come chill texts at late night are appropriate after you've been through the courting phase and have grown comfortable with each other, in that sort of way. But then again, hey, if those are your standards and you're happy with it, I legitimately can't knock it. They just aren't mine. I believe that we should all be unapologetic about our standards and communicate them without being arrogant or condescending, but communicate them. Now, in the case of this guy that I met, I personally did not feel the need to belittle him for, the way that he wanted to go about things. On the other hand, I do think that there are other ways to take a woman out on a proper date without spending a fortune. It doesn't have to be a 5-star restaurant in the city. The traditional dating scene of dinner and movies is so archaic, to be honest. A date can be any activity at any time of the day. You can even go to a museum, which is frankly an ideal date for someone who is an intellectual. But throwing reality into it also, most dates will cost some kind of money, one way or another. So the idea that you don't want to spend money on a date is a bit unrealistic, to be very honest. As for my standards, a man who begins a date by penny pinching was just absolutely not the man for me. I had absolutely no remorse in dropping them right off my suitor list because honestly, that's just a huge turn off for me. Like, you start a date by penny pinching. Nope, you are not the man for me, baby. You are not the man for me. Nope. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that because I did marry the man for me, right? So, I think that people settle out of fear and out of laziness. Is one or the other or both? They're either afraid to be alone or just kind of afraid that they might not find someone else, or just lazy about going through the same dating game, which I get. The dating game can be so fucking exhausting. Like, going all the way starting back from the beginning of what's your favorite color is like, like, goodness Lord, at a certain age, it's just so fucking exhausting. And you don't want to do that anymore. I get it. But I honestly cannot imagine anything far worse than settling for someone that isn't your, like I said, your standard. That's just is going to consistently bite you in the ass. And I feel like your demons are going to consistently haunt you. So even though we have to compromise through life, and we do have to also compromise on our standards through life, there is a certain level of compromise that becomes just, toxic for you. That you're compromising so much that you're giving up a bigger part of yourself. And you're wondering why you're waking up every day unhappy. So yes, there has to be a balance, but stay true to your standards because I promise you, someone out there meets them. I promise. But of course, be realistic about them, of course. But the ones that are realistic, I promise, stay true to them and somebody definitely meets them. If a man is not courting you properly, this is a message to my ladies. If a man is not courting you properly in the beginning, says he's not gonna do it at any other time in a relationship. I don't give a shit about that whole, I don't do this for people that are not this. It's like, no, okay? It is, they call it the dating game because it is a game, right? It's not a game as in you're playing with people's feelings or playing people. It's the game as in you're trying to win the person that you believe is an ideal one for you, right? And traditionally speaking, men have been the one to put their foot forward in things like that. And if you are a traditional woman, or at least to a certain extent that you want that traditional dynamic in your relationship, then you need to sit back and let a man court you. However, if you don't believe that there should be that traditional dynamic, thing, then you can go ahead and court him. Shit, you know what I'm saying? It's 2023, sis, and we making moves these days. I'm just saying, as for me, I believe in, yes, letting a man know that you're interested, giving off your interest, and there's certain ways that you can do that with certain flirts and certain, body language. You can let him know that you're interested. But because I value the traditional dynamic, I believe that the man should, therefore take those hints and make the move. And I stay true to that. And I believe that if that is you, also stay true to that. If that is you and, you're getting your feelings hurt by a man that's saying that women who wait to be courted are trash, it's like, sis, why are you listening to him? That ain't the man you want. That ain't the man of your dreams, honey. So why are you listening to him? Stay true to your standards. Communicate them clearly without arrogance or condescending, but communicate them nonetheless. All right, beautiful people of the world, that concludes our topic for this week. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. If you can resonate with it, awesome. Please drop a comment. I love feedbacks. If you can't resonate with it this week, no problem. Tune in next Tuesday for a brand new episode. A new episode will be available every Tuesday. You may follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Wine and Gist Pod. Until next week, you all go on and be fucking great.